Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. As you guys can see, we're in the shop. We're gonna be outside working on the truck shortly. But if you guys saw the last video where we installed those auxiliary switches, the upfitter upgrade from GM, everything went well, but actually the problem we ran into was the wiring. And what the wiring is actually, because we've got this weird 22.5, 1 year, the old body style used kind of new parts, old interior, new interior. Basically, we've got this refresh that the wiring works, but it doesn't work as intended. When we ended off the last video, I was kind of telling you about what you need to do. You needed to tie 3 wires in and find a switched power source. I think it was pin like 9, 13, and 14, something like that. I'll correct that number down below. But since I made that video, I actually found a product that will help us do plug and play. And what I mean by that is this is from 404 Parts. This is the auxiliary switch retrofit harness for the Silverado and Sierra for 22 to 24. So basically what this is, it's kind of a jumper harness that's going to go between all the factory parts and then that pin and all that stuff we were just telling you about. Instead of having to do that and, custom create harnesses, run a bunch of stuff through the interior, try to find a power source, do a T-tap, just splicing. And so basically all the stuff that you don't want to do on your brand new truck, 404 Parts, they are a GM supplier. They basically have this jumper harness that's going to go from that gray plug that we were showing you earlier, and they found a power source. I think the power source is the USB port. I saw this pop up. It is $130 or $140, something like that, but plug and play versus creating a harness, worrying about melting your truck down, something catching fire, or a plug and play harness. I'll go with the plug and play harness. This shouldn't take too long to install. All right, guys, I apologize for the darkness, but if you guys look down here, the indicator lights are not glowing. So without that harness, none of this stuff works. Also, if you guys look at the LED that glows, it only turns on one at a time. So if you turn another accessory on, the second one doesn't turn on. I've read this instructions, and basically what we're going to do is basically the jumper harness between the auxiliary fuse box that we installed in the previous video and the dash harness. So that's kind of those two connectors. So this is a jumper in between. And then the other 2 harnesses are basically going to tie into the rear USB port. You guys can kind of see that from the instructions. Remove the cup holder. Yeah, remove the cup holder, remove the back panel, and then there should be a slot down there that we can plug into. So yeah, I don't think this will be too complicated, but we are going to have to kind of tear the dash apart to get all this stuff in there. So see this disconnected harness? This is the harness coming from the auxiliary fuse box from the one that we installed last week. Buried up there in the dash, actually you can see it's got that orange tinge to it, that orange color there. We're basically going to put our plug harness in line between this male plug and that female plug up under the dash. All right, so you can see the inline harness clearly plugged in. The male on the bottom and the female up top. That's just our inline harness. Now we've got to run this wire to the back of the truck to that USB port. All right, guys, we're starting on the back. Basically, got to remove this plastic trim ring. Be careful. This thing looks like it's going to snap at any second. Use some plastic removal tools. Pull the rubber cup holder liner off. There's a T15 here. There's a T15 up top. Pull this apart. Pull this back, and we should be able to get access to the USB port that's right here. So I followed the instructions, got the trim ring out, got the rubber mats out, pulled the center console off. Oh, there's a T15. Actually, you can see through here. T15 here, T15 here. Remove the top, pull the back out. You guys can see this loose wire right here. That's the back of the USB harness that's going to go right here. And that's where the instructions end. Unfortunately, they don't tell you how to run it. They just say, run it toward the back of the console, whatever the hell that means. So I think what we're going to do is trying to figure this out. There's not a lot of room on the top, and what I mean by that is I looked back in the bowels of the center console and there's not really any room to run it through the top. So my thought is if I can get the side piece off, I can run it kind of, through the dash, underneath this side piece, and then out the back. That's kind of my hope. Yeah, so I got this side piece trim off. I'm going to pull this little screw off. I think it's like a T15 under there, something like that. We'll be able to remove the side piece. And hopefully that gives us enough room to run this wire. All right, guys. Well, good news, bad news. Good news is we've got the harness in. Bad news is it's too short. So if I ran it along the dash, kind of like how you're supposed to, run it, you know, kind of behind the console here a little bit. Well, look, this only goes to here. We need to go another 6 inches to a foot around the console, and then up, because this is up a foot off the ground into that button. So yeah, that's a nice $140 harness that I can't return, that I'm gonna have to cut in half and add probably 2 or 3 feet to this. So that's, guys, that's super dumb. So yeah, let's get to cutting. All right, guys, I have expanded the harness by about 3 feet. It's probably too long, but honestly, guys, I didn't want to cut it and have to come do it again and, you know, end up being 6 inches short. So I did about 3.5 feet of more cable. Basically just did, you know, red to red, black to black, and then there's a yellow. I used a yellow to yellow. So just extended those 3 wires, soldered it, heat shrink tubing, wrapped it in the Tessa tape. Good to go. Let's try this again. Really can't see it, but you see this wire right here? That's the wire that I extended. Basically ran it down, back behind this panel. Now, if I pull down, you guys can see it right here. So it's ran up above the dash, back down behind this panel, and I basically tucked it underneath this panel. I'm gonna reattach this when we're done. I ran it along this panel, underneath it, and then in the bowels of the seat, basically tucked it underneath this panel as well. And then in the back here, I basically did the same thing, tucked it up underneath the console, plugged it in. You guys can see our little jumper harness. It's plugged in here. This is plugged into the USB port right here. And yeah, we're good to go. Look at the LED indicators. Glowing, glowing, glowing. That was not working earlier, so I think we're good to go. I have put my hands around it, and I did see some light coming through, so I think the backlit illumination is working. So, guys, I think that harness worked just fine. It was just obviously short. So, I'm going to put the rest of the truck back together, and we'll wrap this up. All right, guys, so that's going to be it for the 404 parts auxiliary retrofit harness upgrade over what I'll include a shot here of the backlighting working at night, and as you guys can see, everything is working just fine. So now we're ready to start hooking up accessories to that and all that stuff. So lights, whatever you want, pumps, you know, you do anything you want with those 5 switches. Now extending that harness, that 3.5 feet seemed to be just about the perfect amount. Guys, I didn't have a huge extra loop of wire or anything like that. Maybe it was 6 inches too long, but honestly with something like that, you want to be a little too long than too short, because, you know, if it's too long, you just tuck it up on or something. But I really didn't have a lot of excess or anything like that. But, you know, just be aware that if you guys do install this wire, you may have to extend it depending on how you route it. Maybe 404 parts can have better instructions, or just make the wire longer. Like there's something in there that, you know, like I would have shipped a product that works that's not short. It's kind of weird. It's, you know, first time I ran into that. So maybe they'll update their stuff, maybe they won't, but just be warned, you may have to lengthen it. So that's it for today's video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, hit that thumbs up. If you guys want to see more updates, including, you know, what we're going to wire up with that switch, hit that subscribe button, turn on your bell notifications. If you guys want to help support the channel, I'll try to include links to everything that we use down below. And also make sure you check out our website, BonecrrusherSS.com. Any merchandise you guys buy there, go right back into the channel. You know, all the sales, all the profit from that goes right back into the channel, the truck, the Corvette, and the shop. So that's it. Thanks, guys. Have a great one.